Welcome back to English for Specific Purposes on Telescola. I'm Mr. Daryl.
And I'm Miss Tatia. მოგესალმებით, კეთილი იყოს თქვენი დაბრუნება ჩვენს ტელესკოლაში. მე თათია ვარ, ეს კი დერილია. And what's the topic of today's lesson, Mr. Daryl?
I believe we're moving on to something new, HR management.
Yes, and it is connected with business, but a different aspect of business, HR, human resources management, right?
Well said.
Okay, but I think that before we move to the lesson, we have to look at our agenda. And what do we have on our agenda today, Mr. Daryl?
We'd like to lead off with a bit of a discussion, and that will lead us to the vocabulary. And from there, we will have a look at the reading text that we have for today. And then the grammar section. From there, we will wrap things up and give you some homework.
Okay. დღევანდელი გაკვეთილი, როგორც ყოველთვის, დაიწყება შესწავლით, შემდეგ შევისწავლით ახალ სიტყვებს, შემდეგ წავიკითხავთ ტექსტს, ამას მოყვება გრამატიკა და სავარჯიშოები, შემდეგ შევაჯამებთ გაკვეთილს და დავასრულებთ საშინაო დავალებით, როგორც ყოველთვის. Okay, let's get started. So before we move on to the vocabulary, I would like to ask you, how do people usually find jobs in your home country?
Oh, well, in Canada, we have the usual online websites where you can find jobs, but there's something called a job center as well. You register with a center, and they find you a job, but they take a little percentage from your salary.
That's a good thing. I don't think that we have such kind of a thing in Georgia. People mostly find here jobs on the websites and also through connections. It's very common to find a job here through connections.
Networking.
Yeah.
The power of networking.
Yes. And one more question. Have you ever applied for a job and were you successful, Mr. Daryl?
Well, yeah, I mean, it happened many times. I've applied many times, gone through the interview process many times, and and successful as well.
Me too. Of course, I have gone through a lot of interviews. I have applied for jobs first of all, then I have been shortlisted and then been interviewed, and very often I have been successful very often, to say the truth. Okay, and I think that it's time to move to our first set of vocabulary, and let's see what we have here. So the first word we have is recruitment. Recruitment is a noun, and in Georgian it means სამსახურში აყვანა, დაქირავება. So how would you define that word, Mr. Daryl? Recruitment.
I'd say it's the process of finding new staff or new members for your company through some sort of organized process.
Okay, thank you. Recruitment is a noun, and in Georgian it means სამსახურში აყვანა, დაქირავება. And a good example here, a survey in January highlighted the recruitment of people with leadership skills as one of HR directors' biggest worries. Yes, it's quite hard to recruit qualified and talented staff. Do you agree with me?
I definitely agree.
Okay. And our next word is to headhunt. To headhunt is a verb, and in Georgian it means კადრების მოზიდვა, გადმობირება. So does it mean that when you know that somebody, some talented person is working somewhere in another company, and you try to persuade him to move to your company? Is this process called to headhunt or headhunting?
Yeah, and that explains the name as well, because headhunt has a bit of a sort of aggressive feel, and it is kind of aggressive. You go out and you pick a really talented member from another company, and you convince them to come to you by giving them a higher salary, more perks, more benefits.
So to headhunt is a verb, and in Georgian it means კადრების მოზიდვა, გადმობირება. And a good example here, she was headhunted by a rival firm.
That's exactly why it's not very liked.
It's not very ethical thing, right? Okay. Well, the next word is leave. So everybody knows the word leave, but just we are going to learn a new definition of this word, and leave is a noun. As a noun means შვებულება. Leave, შვებულება. How would you define that word, Mr. Daryl?
Well, everyone's favorite time of the year, perhaps when you take leave, you get time away from work for a certain amount of time.
Okay. And it's usually paid, right?
Yeah, and it's usually paid.
So I've asked if I can take a week's unpaid leave. So leave can be paid or unpaid, right?
If you're lucky.
Leave, if you're lucky. Leave is a noun, and in Georgian it means shvebuleba. Okay, and the next word is?
Appraisal. Appraisal, a noun, appraisal.
And in Georgian it means shepaseba. Tanamshromli sakmianobi shepaseba. Appraisal. When does it happen and what kind of process is it, Mr. Daryl?
It's a meeting that you have, if you're a manager, with your employee, and you discuss his performance, his aims, his future with the company, and you let him know as well what you think of him.
And I think that it's a very important part of work, right?
Yeah, well, how else will the employee know what's expected from the employer?
Yeah. So appraisal is a noun, and in Georgian it means shepaseba. And here we have an example. Many companies operate regular job appraisals, often on an annual basis. So it's done annually, okay, every year. Okay, and the next word is to resign. To resign is a verb, and in Georgian it means თანამდებობიდან გადადგომა წასვლა. So does it mean when you say officially to your manager that you are leaving the job?
Yes, and sometimes it's a happy moment, or sometimes it's a
sad moment.
tragic moment. So.
Okay, to resign is a verb, and in Georgian it means თანამდებობიდან გადადგომა წასვლა. And what is an example?
She resigned as a director.
So it means that she's not the director anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the next word is applicant. Applicant is a noun, and in Georgian it means კანდიდატი განცხადებელი. So when you apply for a job, you are an applicant at this moment. Am I right?
Yes, not just for jobs, to university, lots of different situations where you are formally making an application to become a part of whatever it is.
Okay, clear. So, and an example here is, how many applicants did you have for the job? So applicant is a noun, and in Georgian it means კანდიდატი განცხადებელი. Okay, and I think that we have finished with the words, and it's time to practice. I think that we will see the definitions of the words, and we have to choose the right word for the definition.
You're right.
Okay. Will you try? I will read the definition, you'll try.
Go ahead.
So the first definition is the process of finding people to work for a company or become a new member of an organization.
Ms. Tatya, I think this is recruitment.
And you're right. So the process of finding people to work for a company or become a new member of an organization is recruitment.
I'm going to read the next one for you.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Very good. To give up a job or position by telling your employer you are leaving.
If I decide to leave the company, I will resign. So it's called just that I'm resigning.
Let's check.
And I'm right. So
Perfect.
to give up a job or a position by telling your employer that you are leaving is called to resign. And now you will try. To persuade someone to leave their job by offering that person another job with more pay and a higher position, which I said that I meant was not quite ethical, is called
Headhunting.
And
To
you are
headhunt.
right. To persuade someone to leave their job by offering that person another job with more pay and a higher position is called headhunt.
Well done.
Headhunting is a noun and headhunt is a verb.
Yes.
Okay.
Time allowed away from work for a holiday or illness. Ms. Tatya, what is this?
It was a leave. And I'm right.
Perfect.
So time allowed away from work for a holiday or illness is called leave. Okay, now I will read, you will try. A meeting in which an employee discusses his or her progress, aims, and needs at work with his or her manager or employer is called
An appraisal.
And you're right, Mr. Daryl. So a meeting in which an employee discusses his or her progress, aims, and needs at work with his or her manager or employer is called appraisal.
I think it's your turn. This is our last one.
And I have a very easy job.
A person who formally requests something, especially a job or to study at a college or university,
Is called an applicant.
because he makes an application for.
Yes. A person who formally requests something, especially a job or to study at a college or university, is called an applicant. Okay. So if I apply for a position at work or at the university, I'll be an applicant.
Anything you apply for makes you an applicant.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I think that we have to move on to the reading section, but before we move to the reading section, we need to learn some words, okay, to understand the text better.
It's always a good idea to prepare yourself.
Yes, okay, let's look at our set of vocabulary. And the first word is to nurture. To nurture is a verb, and in Georgian it means runva, განვითარებაში ხელშეწყობა. To nurture. And how would you define that word in English, Mr. Daryl?
Well, it's when you help either a plan or a person to develop and become successful.
So I think that every company should nurture their
Plans and their goals
and staff. Right, so to nurture is a verb, and in Georgian it means runva, განვითარებაში ხელშეწყობა. And an example here is, as a record company executive, his job is to nurture young talent. Okay, the next phrase is cognitive ability. Cognitive ability in Georgian means შემეცნების უნარი, and as I know, it involves a lot of skills, right? Can you help me with the definition, Mr. Daryl? So cognitive ability, what is included in this?
A very good point. There's a lot of skills involved. Perception, memory, learning, understanding, awareness. These are the kinds of skills that are connected to your cognitive ability, your ability to think and be rational.
Yes, thank you. Cognitive ability, and in Georgian it is შემეცნების უნარი, and the example here is, however, it's not just brain size that determines cognitive abilities. Okay, and the next phrase is personality traits. Personality trait in Georgian is პიროვნული თვისება, and we all have our personality traits. Okay, can you give us some more details about the word?
It's a characteristic, a certain feature of something like a personality.
Okay, our next word is compensation package. Compensation package in Georgian means ანაზღაურება. So does it mean salary? Is it the same as salary, Mr. Daryl?
It's connected to it. It's the total package and benefits as well that an employee gets for doing his job.
Okay, so it includes all other benefits apart from salary, right?
Might be insurance or anything.
Okay, compensation package, ანაზღაურება. And an example here is, health and dental insurance might be considered a vital part of the compensation package. So at some jobs, people get a health and dental insurance, for example. It's one of the benefits at work, and this is included in compensation package, right? Our next word is
ambiguity. And this is a noun, and its definition, I'll give it in English, and then you can give us the Georgian definition, is a situation or statement that is unclear in meaning, and it leaves people in some kind of confusion.
Clear. Ambiguity is a noun, and in Georgian it means გაურკვევლობა, ბუნდოვანება. Ambiguity, გაურკვევლობა, ბუნდოვანება. And here we have an example. Be as precise as possible in your answers so that there is no ambiguity. Okay?
Important on tests as well.
Yes. Okay. And I think that we have finished with the words, and it's time to read a text.
Indeed.
But before we read a text, let's discuss some of the questions. What does the Human Resources Department do? What is the responsibility of Human Resources Department, Mr. Jerry? What do you know about it?
As I understand, the Human Resources Department mediates between the staff and the office, the management. So they kind of go between the workers and the owners.
Okay, I have the same information about Human Resources Department, and I think that their responsibility is also to headhunt, to find talented employees. And what do you think is the most important human resource function? So we mentioned headhunting, attracting talented staff, and also team building. But what do you think, which is the most important responsibility?
Ms. Tatya, I think it might be keeping the staff happy, keeping them motivated, and keeping them developing as well, developing their skills.
Okay, that's what we are going to read about. We are going to read a text and find out what is the most important human resource function, okay? And a little bit more about what Human Resources Department generally do.
Very good, because it is an important part of a company.
Yeah, really. Okay, so when one looks at the size of the recruitment industry around the world, it seems that practitioners act as if recruitment and selection is the most important human resource function. The research on the critical role of ability in explaining performance suggests that they are right to do so. Failure to recruit workers with appropriate competencies will doom the firm to failure, or at the very least, to stunted growth. Firms need to attract and nurture people with the kind of abilities that will make the organization productive in its chosen industry. So you were right. We were right when we said that attracting talented staff is a really important function of a HR department.
Indeed. Now, while firms should aim to recruit effectively at all levels of ability, the need to recruit astutely is particularly important, where higher levels of discretion or specialized blends of skills are required in the work. As job complexity increases, so does the range of human performance. Thus, as we move up from low complexity work to jobs where greater ambiguity is involved in decision making, differences in skills and judgment become more pronounced and are more consequential for the organization.
Yes, I have thought about it, that different skills and abilities are necessary for different jobs, and HR department should decide what skills and abilities are necessary for the people they are going to recruit.
And should improve the skills if it's lacking.
Yes. It's quite possible for one professional, such as a lawyer or IT consultant, to be several times better than another at the same task. The phenomenon of large performance variation is also commonly recognized in sales work, such as insurance sales. Some people simply lack the blend of cognitive abilities and personality traits needed and should not be recruited at all. Among those who do have the threshold abilities, the performance range will still be enormous. In Anglo-American countries, at least, firms commonly find they need sales compensation packages which allow high achievers to earn a higher pay, better links to their personal productivity, which is really right? So I think that pay should be linked with their performance.
Well said. Recognizing the crucial role of ability in performance, the literature on recruitment and selection is vast. It's important to make a distinction between selection practices and recruitment strategies. Selection is about choosing among candidates. It is about how to make fair and relevant assessments of the strengths and weaknesses of applicants. However, recruitment strategy is best understood as the way in which a firm tries to source or attract people among whom it will ultimately make selections. Recruitment strategies include attempts to make the organization an attractive place to work and attempts to reach better pools of candidates.
So I think that we've heard a lot of interesting things from the text, and I think it's time to find out how well we understood the text. For that we have an exercise. We will see the statements and we have to decide whether the statements are true or false. And it's your turn to try. Okay?
I will read.
I'll read the statement.
Go ahead.
And you will tell me whether the statement is true or false. So listen carefully. People working in HR believe that recruitment and selection are the most important aspects of what they do, and this is borne out by research.
I would say that the answer might be true.
Okay, let's check. And you're right, it's true. And why is it true? We read, practitioners act as if recruitment and selection is the most important human resource function. The research on the critical role of ability in explaining performance suggests that they are right to do so. So our next statement is, candidates for professional and specialized categories of jobs, for example, lawyers and IT consultants, are generally better in interviews than candidates for less demanding jobs. What do you think? Is it true or false, Mr. Jarrell, according to the text?
As I remember, the text says something opposite to this, and this must be false.
And you're right, it's false. Because we read, it's quite possible for one professional, such as lawyer or an IT consultant, to be several times better than another at the same task. Okay. And now I will try.
Even if people do have all the necessary skills and qualities to do a job effectively, there will still be a wide variation in individual ability.
And I think that this is true. And this is true.
Well done.
Okay, because we read, among those who do have the threshold abilities, the performance range will still be enormous. And one more, and I think that you have to try. I will read it for you. Only Anglo-American companies try to reflect individual differences in performance through pay policy. Is it true or false, Mr. Jarrell? What do you think?
Slightly difficult, but I'd say this is probably true.
It's written only in Anglo-American companies.
Well, let's hope it's true.
Okay. It's false, Mr. Jarrell, because we read in the text, in Anglo-American countries, at least, and this word at least is a key word here.
You're right.
Yeah, firms commonly find they need sales compensation packages which allow high achievers to earn a higher pay pack, better linked to their personal productivity. Okay, and I think that we have come to the reading part and we have to move to grammar. And today our aim is to revise past tenses, which we have studied, as I remember. So let's quickly recap. When do we generally use past simple, Mr. Jarrell?
Let me recap the uses. Simple completed actions, you require the past simple. Habits in the past as well. Permanent situations in the past. General truths and facts about the past. And main events in a story.
That's right, Mr. Jarrell. And I will give you one example. For example, the team completed a project last month.
Yes.
So it happened last month. We know exact time in the past and the action is finished. It has no connection with present. We know exact time when it happened, so we use past simple here. And just we know that we need to use the verbs in the second form of the verbs,
yes.
And we know that we have regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs take ed at the end, whilst irregular verbs change their form. Okay, now let's talk about the use of past continuous. We use past continuous for actions happening at a particular moment in the past. Also for temporary situations in the past. Also for annoying past habits, usually with always. Also for actions in progress over a period of time. Also for two actions in progress at the same time. And finally for background information in the story. Can you give an example for past continuous, Mr. Jarrell?
I'd love to. For example, at 5 o'clock, the CEO was having a meeting with the staff.
Okay, it was a specific time in the past and the action was in progress, okay? And we use past continuous, and here is the form, how we form past continuous. Okay, let's move on. We have past perfect simple. And when do we use past perfect simple, Mr. Jarrell?
Well, we use it in situations and states before the past. Completed actions before a moment in the past. And completed actions where the important thing is the result at that moment in the past.
Okay.
Would you like to give us some examples?
So one example, he had worked for Forbes before he moved to our company. So we have two past actions. He moved to our company, but before that he worked for Forbes. So when we have two past actions, the earlier one is expressed by past continuous. Am I right?
Exactly.
Okay. And now it's time to practice and see how well we can use these past tenses. So here is a sentence, and we have four options to complete the action, to complete the sentence. Let's try. So I'll read the sentence, okay?
Go ahead.
When the robbery happened, the security guard, A, slept, was sleeping, had slept, or was slept. What do you think? Which one is right?
I'll pick B, was sleeping.
And you are right, okay. He was in the process of doing this, okay? Now I will try.
Go ahead. I wasn't sure how Belinda would react because I, something, her along. Is it A, didn't know? Was it B, wasn't knowing? Was it C, hadn't been knowing? Or was it D, hadn't known?
I would say D is the right answer, had not known. Okay, know is the dative verb which cannot take ing form, so I think that C won't be the right answer here, or B. So there are two past actions, and this is the earlier one, and so that's why I have chosen
Your
past
deep knowledge has saved us once again.
Okay. And the next statement, then we have a blank space, to the manager when he entered the room. And we have four options again. A, talked, B, had been talking, C, was talking, and D, had talked. What do you think? Which one is right?
Well, it was a process that happened when the manager came in. It has to be C, was talking.
And you are right. He was talking to the manager when he entered the room. And the last one, when we got to the airport, I realized then a space, my passport at home. So I got to the airport, this is one past moment. It means that something happened before that past moment. So I know that in this case, I need to use past perfect. So the right answer will be B here, had left my passport at home. Okay, and Mr. Daryl, I think it's time to summarize our lesson. So can you do it?
I'd love to. We had a look at the vocabulary. As you remember, it led us straight to the reading section, and from there we moved on to our grammar, which was past tense.
Very interesting. ეხლა კი შევაჯამოთ ჩვენი გაკვეთილი. გაკვეთილის დასაწყისში გავეცანით ახალ სიტყვებს, შემდეგ წავიკითხეთ ტექსტი. საკმაოდ საინტერესო ჩემი აზრით. შემდეგ განვიხილეთ გრამატიკა, გავიმეორეთ წარსული დროები. Now it's time to talk about the homework. What's the homework for today, Mr. Daryl?
Well, we would like you to write a paragraph about your experience applying for a job. I'm sure many of you have gone through this experience. We'd love to hear it.
And we'll get very interesting answers, I think, right? Mm-hmm. And where can the homework be uploaded, Mr. Daryl?
Well, it can be uploaded to the address you see on the screen, and there as well you can find your model answer.
Okay. You are very helpful, Mr. Daryl. Okay. But now I think it's time to finish our lesson. We have to say goodbye to our audience, but I'm sure that we'll meet them very soon again, right?
Indeed. Have a great week and see you next time.
So stay with us and keep on learning.
Goodbye.
Bye.